Ah, the 2020s. A time when streaming replaced cable, TikTok replaced Vine, and apparently ChatGPT replaced Chegg. What's that? You don't know what Chegg is? Oh God, I'm old. I'm 27, and life feels like it's changing faster than ever. Culture shifts overnight, and basketball is evolving just as quickly. We're only halfway through the decade, and yet it already feels like we've lived through a lifetime of history. A lot of you have been asking me to do a 2020s recap, and at first, I wasn't so sure. Usually, you gotta wait until a decade is finished before you look back at it. But the truth is, the first half of these 2020s have been so wild, so unpredictable, and so unforgettable that waiting another 5 years just doesn't make any sense. Think about what's already happened. The world literally shut down in the middle of a season. We also lost Kobe Bryant, one of the greatest legends the game has ever known. And then, just a few years later, we watched an alien in Victor Wembanyama walk onto an NBA court and prove that basketball has truly entered another dimension. But maybe the biggest story isn't just the moments, it's the balance. For the first time in NBA history, we've had 7 different champions in the last 7 years. No repeat dynasties, no easy predictions, just pure and utter parity. Every season feels like a new story with no guarantees and no shortcuts. In the 2010s, you could pencil in the finals before the season even started. But in the 2020s, nobody's safe. This is the most evenly spread, unpredictable stretch the NBA has ever seen. And if you've been watching, you know how incredible it's been. So let's tell the story of a decade that's still being written, but already impossible to forget. This is a full recap of the 2020s so far. The 2019 finals ended with Kawhi Leonard and the Toronto Raptors pulling off one of the greatest underdog triumphs the league had ever seen. Kawhi's legendary run silenced the Golden State Warriors dynasty, and with it came devastating consequences. Kevin Durant tore his Achilles, Klay Thompson tore his ACL. Golden State, who had ruled the NBA for half a decade, suddenly looked human. Toronto held its first ever championship parade, a city reborn in basketball glory. But the victory was short-lived. Kawhi chose to leave just after 1 year, heading west to Los Angeles. His exit didn't just end Toronto's reign before it could begin. It altered the course of the entire league. We didn't know it at the time, but that moment was the beginning of something the NBA had never seen before. An era defined by unpredictability and balance. The offseason that followed was absolute chaos. In Los Angeles, the Lakers finally got Anthony Davis. For LeBron James, the previous season had been a disappointment, marred by injuries and a roster that just wasn't ready. With Davis at his side, the Lakers looked reborn. Across the hall, another story was forming. Kawhi Leonard stunned the world by convincing Paul George to join him with the Clippers. Overnight, Los Angeles became the center of the basketball universe, with 2 contenders sharing the same building. Brooklyn shocked the league too, signing Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. Durant would miss the full year due to the injury he suffered in the finals, but the Nets had planted their flag in the future. Down in Miami, Jimmy Butler chose culture over comfort, leaving Philadelphia for a team no one thought was ready to contend. And in Houston, James Harden reunited with Russell Westbrook, forming one of the most polarizing duos in recent memory. The draft also added a lot of intrigue. Zion Williamson, hailed as the most hyped rookie since LeBron James, went #1 overall to New Orleans. The Pelicans instantly became must-watch television, even though injuries delayed his debut. Memphis struck gold with a #2 pick, selecting Ja Morant, explosive and fearless. Get it? Ja immediately gave the Grizzlies new life, turning a rebuilding team into a story worth following.
The Grizzlies with 22. Ja baked it in and a 4-point chance.
The league felt wide open for the first time in years. Out west, LeBron was rejuvenated and back to his MVP form, while Anthony Davis dominated on both ends of the floor. The Clippers were equally dangerous on paper, Kawhi and George leading a deep, defensive-minded roster. But questions about chemistry and Kawhi's load management followed them all year long. And unfortunately for Golden State, they were falling apart. With Durant gone, Klay sidelined, and Curry breaking his hand 4 games in, the Warriors plummeted to the bottom of the standings. The dynasty was gone. In Houston, the Harden-Westbrook experiment produced flashes of brilliance, but overall was surrounded by constant doubt about whether it could work in the playoffs. Denver and Utah also quietly held strong as solid playoff teams, but many wondered if they had the firepower to truly contend. Now let's head back east. Milwaukee was unstoppable in the regular season. Giannis Antetokounmpo looked better than ever, a freight train who could dominate on both ends. The Bucks finished with the best record in the league, and media headlines painted them as the clear favorite. In Philadelphia, Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons struggled to find rhythm without Jimmy Butler, and tension started to simmer beneath the surface. Boston, led by Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, finally started to turn the corner, proving their young duo could carry a contender. And then there was Miami. Butler had brought a new edge to the Heat. The culture Eric Spoelstra built was starting to shine. And even if the rest of the league didn't see it yet, Miami was on the verge of something special. And then came January 26, 2020. Kobe Bryant, his daughter Gianna, and 7 others tragically passed in a helicopter crash. The NBA world stopped. Players were crying openly. Fans gathered outside Staples Center in grief. Entire arenas went silent in tribute. Kobe wasn't just a Laker. He was an icon whose work ethic and mentality transcended basketball. His death shook the sport to its core. For the Lakers, the season transformed. It was no longer just about winning a title. It became about honoring Kobe's legacy. Speaking of his legacy, I just made a video talking about how Kobe's death altered his NBA legacy. So whether you're a fan of his or not, I highly recommend you to check that video out. The All-Star game that February in Chicago became a tribute to him. The league introduced the Elam ending, changing the format so that the game would end on a target score. The result was the most competitive All-Star game in years. In the fourth quarter, players dove for loose balls, argued with refs, and treated it sort of like a Game 7. Anthony Davis hit the game-winning free throw. Kawhi Leonard won the game's MVP award, later dedicating it to Kobe Bryant. And for one night, the league celebrated Kobe's legacy through pure, unfiltered competition. But just a couple weeks later, the season came to a screeching halt. Rudy Gobert was at the podium being interviewed by media, and he heard about the sickness that was going around. So then jokingly, he started touching everyone's cell phones and microphones. He ended up testing positive for that C-word sickness. And within just a couple hours, the NBA shut down. Games were canceled. Arenas were empty. No one knew if the season would ever resume. For 4 long months, basketball disappeared. But when it returned, it was in an environment the league had never seen before, and it was called
the bubble.
22 teams were sent to Disney World, isolated from the outside world. Players lived in hotels, ate in cafeterias, and spent their free time fishing or playing video games. Families weren't even allowed at first. Paul George later admitted to struggling with depression inside the bubble. A lot of players openly talked about the mental strain.
It's like that's mental warfare.
Right.
It's another level of being even more. It's no escape.
Now, I know what you're thinking. Basketball wasn't the only thing that was going on inside the bubble. Instead, you had Jimmy Butler starting Big Face Coffee, charging teammates $20 a cup, whether it was a drip, latte, or even an espresso. It became a running joke and later turned into an actual coffee brand that he launched publicly. I will never forget Clippers guard Lou Williams left the bubble for a family emergency and was later spotted at an Atlanta club, famously eating chicken wings. The league even piped in crowd noise from NBA 2K and put giant LED screens of virtual fans courtside. Looking back at this is just hilarious. The media mocked this as a season between quotation marks, but players fired back, insisting it was the hardest environment they'd ever played in. With no fans, no travel, and no distractions, the games felt pure. Every possession echoed in an empty gym, and the competition reached a fever pitch. In the bubble seeding games, Damian Lillard turned into a one-man wrecking crew, averaging over 37 points to drag Portland into the playoffs.
Lillard draws a foul and puts it in.
The Phoenix Suns shocked everyone by going 8-0, even though they still missed the postseason. And the playoffs were chaotic. Milwaukee, the league's best team, collapsed in the second round against Jimmy Butler's Miami Heat. Giannis went down with an ankle injury, but even before that, Miami had taken full control. The Clippers also imploded, blowing a 3-1 lead to Denver in a second round meltdown that would haunt them for years. The Nuggets, led by Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray, captured the league's imagination. Murray scored 50 in a duel with Donovan Mitchell in the first round, then delivering clutch shot after clutch shot against the Clippers.
Murray, 3, good!
But Denver's run ended in the conference finals, where the Lakers imposed their will. Miami, on the other end, was rewriting their own legacy. Butler, Bam Adebayo, and Goran Dragic powered them past Indiana, Milwaukee, and Boston to reach the finals as a 5th seed. It was one of the most improbable runs in decades. The finals became the climax of an unforgettable season. The Lakers versus the Heat. LeBron James against the team that had once embraced him, now led by Jimmy Butler in the best stretch of his career. Butler authored 2 legendary performances, a 40-point triple-double in Game 3 and a 35-point masterpiece in Game 5, where he left the court hunched over, exhausted from carrying Miami. But the Heat's injuries piled up. Dragic missed most of the series, Bam battled a neck strain, and against LeBron and AD, they were simply outmatched. Game 6 sealed it. The Lakers put on a defensive clinic, suffocating Miami from the opening tip. LeBron recorded a triple-double. Anthony Davis dominated inside, and the Lakers closed the series in just 6 games.
The Lakers conquer the bubble, and banner number 17 will soon hang in the rafters.
It was LeBron's 4th championship, his 4th finals MVP, and the Lakers' 17th banner. But this one wasn't just about the numbers. It was also for the late, great Kobe Bryant. For Miami, that loss wasn't the end of a dream. It was the beginning of a new identity. The Heat had entered the bubble as a 5th seed, overlooked and underestimated. Nobody thought Jimmy Butler could lead a team to the finals as the #1 option. He wasn't supposed to be a superstar by traditional standards. He didn't have the scoring titles, the highlight reels, or even the hype. But in Orlando, he redefined what superstardom meant. His willpower, his leadership, his relentlessness. It carried Miami further than anyone thought possible. Losing in 6 games didn't feel like a failure. The Heat had outperformed every expectation. They dismantled the Bucks, Bucks outlasted the Celtics and pushed the Lakers harder than most believed they could. Butler's Game 3 and Game 5 performances became legendary images. His exhausted slump over the scorer's table, the sweat pouring down, the look of a man who left every ounce of himself on the floor. Even in defeat, it elevated him. That finals turned Jimmy Butler from a really good player into a certified franchise cornerstone. For the organization, the loss reinforced the idea of Heat culture. They had built a roster of tough, selfless players. Bam Adebayo, Goran Dragic, Tyler Hero, Duncan Robinson. They all bought into a system that thrived on work ethic and discipline. Eric Spoelstra showed once again that he was one of the best coaches in basketball, capable of adapting and maximizing his roster under impossible conditions. The loss was painful, especially with Dragic injured and Bam battling through a neck strain. They'll always wonder what might have been if they'd been fully healthy. But in Miami, that finals wasn't remembered as a collapse. It was validation. It told the league that Jimmy Butler and the Heat were for real. And that win meant everything for the Lakers, far beyond just adding another banner. It tied them with Boston at 17 championships, cementing themselves at the top of the history books. But context is what made it different. This wasn't Showtime Magic or Shaq and Kobe. It wasn't Kobe and Pau. This was LeBron and Anthony Davis dragging the franchise back from years of dysfunction, lottery trips, and embarrassing missteps. From 2013 to 19, the Lakers missed the playoffs 6 straight times, which is also the longest drought in franchise history. They were a laughingstock, a team too big to fail and somehow kept failing. LeBron's arrival in 2018 didn't immediately fix things. Year 1 ended in injury, missed playoffs, and whispers that his time in LA would be wasted. The Anthony Davis trade was a gamble, mortgaging their entire young core for a star who had yet to prove that he could win. When Kobe passed, the weight on that locker room became almost unbearable. The pressure to deliver wasn't just organizational, it was spiritual.
You know, ever since the tragedy, all we wanted to do was do it for him, and we didn't let him down.
Winning in the bubble gave the franchise redemption. It proved LeBron still had the power to control the league even at 35. And most of all, it gave the Lakers a championship to honor Kobe. Every speech, every interview, every celebration tied back to him. They wore the Black Mamba jerseys in the finals. They spoke his name constantly. The title became as much a tribute as it was a triumph. It was survival after years of misery. It was validation that their identity as a marquee franchise was intact. And it was closure, a chance to lift Kobe's memory with the weight of a championship banner. As the season concluded, the league handed out its individual accolades. Giannis Antetokounmpo captured his 2nd straight MVP award while also earning the Defensive Player of the Year. Ja Morant was named Rookie of the Year. Brandon Ingram took home Most Improved Player. Montrezl Harrell claimed 6-man honors, and Nick Nurse was recognized as the Coach of the Year. The 2019-20 season will always stand apart from the rest. It began with hope and balance, spiraling into heartbreak with Kobe's passing, and was nearly lost entirely when the world shut down. What followed in the bubble was unlike anything basketball had ever seen. Players lived in isolation and competed in an atmosphere stripped down to its core. Out of that environment came some of the most intense basketball ever played, a postseason that tested resilience as much as talent. The year ended in triumph, but the story of the season was bigger than a trophy. It was about survival, about carrying on through unimaginable circumstances, and about finding meaning in a time of loss. The bubble didn't just save a season. It etched the year into a memory as one of the most unique and unforgettable years the league had ever known. Quick side note, if you guys are enjoying the video, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. It would really help me reach my goal of 10,000 subs. Also, make sure you guys go subscribe to our brand new podcast channel, Jay-Z Courtside. That, as well as our Twitch streams, Twitter, and Discord server will all be linked down below in the description. Back to the video. The shortest offseason in NBA history had just begun. Barely 70 days after LeBron James and the Lakers lifted the trophy in the bubble, the league was already reshaping itself. For contenders who fell short, there was no time to rest. Desperation set in immediately. Unlike the hyper-controlled bubble, the 2020-21 season saw a patchwork of fan returns. Some markets allowed small crowds, others remained empty. Teams had to fill roles like infection control officers and comply with local health rules. Let's start in Milwaukee. The whispers surrounding Giannis Antetokounmpo's future grew louder. The back-to-back MVP had just suffered another postseason collapse, and rival franchises were circling. The Bucks knew they couldn't afford another failure, so they swung big. Drew Holiday arrived in a blockbuster deal, a two-way guard whose steadiness and defense made him the perfect fit next to Giannis. Holiday wasn't just a roster move. He was Milwaukee's last card to play in convincing Giannis to stay. Out west, the Lakers refused to stand still, even as champions. They let Rajon Rondo, Dwight Howard, and Danny Green all walk, flipping their roster into something sleeker and younger. Dennis Schroeder, Montrezl Harrell, Marc Gasol, and Wesley Matthews all joined. LeBron and Anthony Davis signed long-term deals, securing the franchise's future. The media called it a reloaded champion, a team that looked stronger on paper than the one that had just won in Orlando. The Clippers faced humiliation after blowing a 3-1 lead to Denver. Doc Rivers was fired, replaced by Ty Lue. Kawhi Leonard and Paul George returned, but the doubts lingered. Could they shake off the label of being soft? Could they build real chemistry in a locker room fractured by load management and egos? In Brooklyn, The anticipation was electric. Kevin Durant was finally back from his Achilles injury. With Kyrie Irving alongside him, the Nets promised to unleash an offensive juggernaut. To guide them, ownership made a stunning hire: Steve Nash, a Hall of Fame point guard with no coaching experience. The experiment sparked headlines everywhere. Would Nash's lack of experience doom them, or would his brilliance as a floor general translate to coaching? Also, early in the season, Kyrie burned sage around the court to cleanse bad energy before a game in Boston. Meanwhile, in Houston, everything was falling apart. James Harden showed up to training camp late, visibly out of shape, sending a message that he no longer believed in the Rockets' direction.
James Harden definitely had a pregame meal, averaging 17 points per game.
Pictures of fat Harden went trending everywhere. Westbrook wanted out as well. The team that once threatened Golden State's dynasty was unraveling. Up in Philadelphia, change was also coming. Brett Brown was gone, and Doc Rivers stepped in to lead Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons. The 76ers surrounded their stars with shooters like Seth Curry, Danny Green, and finally addressed the spacing issues that plagued them. In Boston, Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown were ready to take the next step. Their confidence was growing. The draft also offered some fresh storylines. Minnesota selected Anthony Edwards first overall, a fearless scorer who brought swagger from day one. Golden State picked James Wiseman second, hoping to add size to their core. But disaster struck yet again. Klay Thompson tore his Achilles in a workout, his second devastating injury in 2 years. Any dreams of the Warriors rising back into contention evaporated overnight. Charlotte also drafted LaMelo Ball, whose creativity and flair turned the Hornets into must-watch basketball. When the season tipped off, the league felt like it had no clear favorite. Out west, the Lakers looked dominant early. LeBron and AD were a terrifying duo again, and the new additions gave them some fresh energy. But fatigue from the short offseason lingered, and nagging injuries began to pile up. The Clippers steadied themselves under Ty Lue, showing signs that they had learned from their collapse. In Phoenix, Chris Paul arrived in a trade, instantly transforming the Suns from a fun young team into a legitimate contender.
Chris Paul with a great ball fake. Takes the mid-range shot.
His partnership with Devin Booker brought leadership and poise the franchise had lacked for a decade. Back out east, Milwaukee was a regular season powerhouse again, but the weight of their past failures had hung heavy. In Philadelphia, Embiid looked unstoppable, finally healthy and dominating like a true MVP candidate. Simmons' defense earned some praise, but questions about his scoring persisted. Brooklyn also quickly stole the spotlight. Durant returned as if he'd never been injured, and Kyrie dazzled with his shot making. And then came the trade that shocked the league.
James Harden reportedly being traded from Houston to Brooklyn.
James Harden forced his way out of Houston and joined Brooklyn, giving the Nets an unprecedented trio of offensive firepower. Analysts immediately crowned them as title favorites, but chemistry issues and injuries remain looming questions. The season's midpoint arrived with All-Star Weekend in Atlanta. The game itself carried less weight, with many players voicing concerns about holding the event during the pandemic. When the lights came on, talent took over. Giannis Antetokounmpo delivered a flawless performance, shooting 16 for 16 from the field and also earning All-Star MVP. As the playoffs approached, the league introduced the new play-in tournament, giving seeds 7 through 10 a chance at the postseason. In the West, it delivered drama immediately. LeBron James and the Lakers, dealing with injuries to both LeBron and AD, slipped into the play-in, facing Steph Curry and the Warriors in a high-stakes battle. LeBron drilled a deep three over Curry to clinch the 7th seed, one of the many iconic shots of his career. And oh baby, these playoffs were intense. In the East, Milwaukee's gamble on Drew Holiday looked like it was paying off.
Rebound, Holiday on the run, darting ahead, all the way in.
They swept Miami in the first round, exercising the demons of 2020. In the second round, they faced the heavily favored Brooklyn Nets. Durant was breathtaking.
Good crush the defense by Milwaukee. Now Durant fires and hits.
Carrying the Nets with a historic 49-point triple-double in Game 5 and nearly winning Game 7 with a buzzer beater that became infamous for being just an inch too long. His foot on the line turned a series-winning 3 into a game-tying 2. With Harden hobbled by a hamstring injury and Kyrie also out, the Nets collapsed and Milwaukee advanced. Philadelphia, who just so happened to be the East top seed, ended up facing Atlanta in the semifinals. Behind Trae Young's fearless shot-making and an infamous late-game pass from Ben Simmons in Game 7, the Hawks stunned the Sixers, sending Philly into an offseason of turmoil. Let's head out west. Phoenix emerged as the story of the year. Chris Paul's leadership turned Booker and DeAndre Ayton into stars. They swept Denver in the second round and outlasted the Clippers in 6 games, though Kawhi Leonard missed the playoffs with a torn ACL. The Clippers fought valiantly. Paul George finally shedding his playoff P reputation with big performances, but Phoenix advanced to their first final since 1993. The final set the stage for redemption. The Milwaukee Bucks against the Phoenix Suns. Giannis Antetokounmpo chasing validation. Chris Paul at 36 years old chasing the one prize that had eluded him his entire career. Game 1 and 2 went to Phoenix. Paul orchestrating masterfully. Booker scoring with ease.
The Phoenix Suns are now 2 wins away from their first NBA championship.
The narrative was building. CP3 was finally going to get his ring, but Giannis had other plans. After a gruesome knee injury in the East Finals, many doubted if he'd even play. Instead, he delivered one of the greatest finals performances in NBA history. He dominated on both ends of the court, attacking relentlessly, blocking shots, and imposing his will. The Bucks stormed back, winning 4 straight games. Game 6 became Giannis's masterpiece. 50 points, 14 rebounds, 5 blocks. When the buzzer sounded, Milwaukee was champion for the first time in 50 years.
The long wait has ended. After a half century, the Milwaukee Bucks are NBA champions once again.
For the Suns, this loss was bittersweet. On one hand, they had just completed one of the most remarkable turnarounds in modern NBA history. 2 years earlier, Phoenix had been one of the league's most irrelevant franchises. Now, they were in the finals, fueled by Devin Booker's scoring brilliance and DeAndre Ayton's growth. The finals run validated the culture shift Chris Paul had brought the moment he had arrived. But in the end, it was heartbreak. They had been 2 wins away from a championship, and the opportunity slipped through their fingers. For a young team, the sting was real. Yet, the promise was even greater. This loss showed that they belonged, but it also reminded them how hard the climb truly was. For Chris Paul, the pain cut deeper. At 36 years old, he knew how rare these chances were. His career had been defined by brilliance, but also by playoff misfortune, injuries at the worst times, collapses, and of course, missed opportunities. In Phoenix, he had finally got over the hump, reaching his first finals after 16 years in the league. For a brief moment, it looked like destiny was on his side. 2 wins away from the ring that had always eluded him. But Milwaukee stormed back, and Giannis's 50-point masterpiece in Game 6 slammed that door shut. It was agony, the closest he'd ever been, and perhaps the closest that he would ever get. This loss cemented the paradox of Chris Paul's career, one of the greatest point guards to ever play, a leader who could transform franchises, but still searching for the ultimate validation. It was a reminder of what might never come again. For Giannis and the Bucks, this win was the culmination of years of doubt and questions about whether their way could ever truly succeed. For Giannis personally, it was liberation. He had been criticized relentlessly for his playoff failures, the wall defenses built by Toronto in 2019, the collapse against Miami in 2020, and the idea that his game was too one-dimensional to ever deliver at the highest stage. The whispers grew louder every year. He'll have to leave Milwaukee if he wants to win. By staying loyal, signing the Supermax, and then delivering one of the greatest finals performances ever, Giannis silenced everything at once. 50 points in a closeout game, 2 MVPs and a DPOY already on his resume. Now, with a championship and a finals MVP, he vaulted himself into the pantheon of the all-time greats. It was no longer potential, it was legacy. Giannis winning the championship in 2021 was bigger than just an NBA story. It was a moment of national pride for Greece. Basketball has always mattered there, but Giannis took it to another level. He wasn't just a Greek player succeeding in the NBA. He was the child of Nigerian immigrants who grew up selling trinkets on the street of Athens, a story that many in Greece came to see as their own. When he won, the country erupted. Crowds gathered in Athens to celebrate deep into the night, and Greek media covered it like the nation had just won a gold medal. It wasn't only about basketball, it was about representation, resilience, and hope. Giannis became a symbol of what Greece could offer the world, and for younger generations there, he embodied possibility. When I went to Greece last year, I had to make a special stop at the airport just to buy a hat from the Giannis store.
I'm a champion. I'm a champion. My city's a champion.
And for the Bucks as a franchise, it ended half a century of waiting. The last time they'd won, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Oscar Robertson wore their jerseys. For decades, Milwaukee had been an afterthought, a small market team no superstar would stay with. But by building around Giannis, adding Chris Middleton's steady hand, and gambling on Drew Holiday, they defied the modern logic of player movement. In an era of super teams, Milwaukee won the hard way through patience, loyalty, and resilience. The title validated everything. The front office's belief in Giannis, Giannis's belief in the city, and the city's belief in him. It was proof that small markets could still dream, that loyalty could still pay off, and that Milwaukee, long overlooked, was once again the center of the basketball world. Let's go through the individual accolades from that year. Nikola Jokic won his first MVP award. Rudy Gobert claimed Defensive Player of the Year. LaMelo Ball earned Rookie of the Year. Julius Randle took home Most Improved Player. Jordan Clarkson was named Sixth Man, and Tom Thibodeau was recognized as the Coach of the Year. This season was unlike anything the league had ever tried. With the shortest offseason in history and strict protocol still in place, it became a grind of injuries, fatigue, and constant uncertainty. Rosters were patched together on the fly, games were postponed or played with skeleton lineups, and stars were forced to adjust to a year where nothing ever felt stable. And yet, out of the chaos came unforgettable drama, the rise of new contenders, a playoff run that swung on a toe barely grazing the three-point line. This season captured the unpredictability of this era so perfectly. The year left behind more than just a champion. It was a reminder that resilience matters as much as talent, that nothing in the NBA is guaranteed, and that even after the strangest stretch in league history, the game always finds a way to deliver. The 2021-22 season arrived with a league desperate for normalcy. After 2 years defined by bubbles, empty arenas, and pandemic protocols, fans were finally back in buildings everywhere. For the first time since 2019, the NBA felt whole again. But if the league thought stability was coming, the year quickly proved otherwise. In Los Angeles, the Lakers doubled down on star power, trading for Russell Westbrook. The move was pretty polarizing. On paper, a trio of LeBron James, Anthony Davis, and Westbrook looked unstoppable. But critics immediately questioned spacing, fit, and whether Westbrook's style could coexist with LeBron. The front office banked on talent just winning out. The Clippers, however, braced for a season without Kawhi Leonard, who was recovering from a torn ACL. Up north in Golden State, they welcomed Klay Thompson back, though his return would be delayed until mid-season after 2 full years lost to devastating injuries. Steph Curry was still carrying the Warriors, but whispers grew a bit louder. Would Klay ever truly be the same? Now in Brooklyn, expectations were sky high. Kevin Durant had nearly carried the Nets past Milwaukee in the previous postseason. With Kyrie Irving and a healthy James Harden alongside him, Brooklyn looked like the most talented team in basketball. But of course, controversy erupted when Kyrie refused to take that certain vaccine. New York's mandate barred him from playing home games, and the Nets initially sidelined him altogether. Headlines dominated the season. Was Kyrie abandoning his team? Could the Nets win without him? It became one of the year's defining storylines. Philadelphia also faced their own storm. Ben Simmons refused to report to training camp after being scapegoated for the Sixers' collapse against Atlanta. The drama dragged into the season, with Simmons citing mental health while Philly fined him heavily. The saga consumed the team until the trade deadline, when Simmons was finally dealt to Brooklyn for James Harden. 2 disgruntled stars swapping coasts in one of the most surreal midseason trades ever. And of course, this year's NBA draft brought a lot of attention. Detroit selected Cade Cunningham first overall, a polished, versatile guard who immediately gave the Pistons hope. Unfortunately for Detroit fans, aka me, the young star battled with injuries through his first year. Therefore, the rookie spotlight shined even brighter on Evan Mobley in Cleveland, whose defense and poise made the Cavaliers relevant for the first time in years. As the season tipped off, the Lakers were a mess. Injuries plagued LeBron and Davis, while Westbrook's fit issues became glaring. Turnovers, missed jumpers, and awkward spacing fueled constant criticism. By midseason, the Lakers were in a freefall, clinging to the play-in race. In contrast, the Warriors roared back to life.
For the win. Yes, sir! His 8th career game winner!
Steph Curry broke the all-time three-point record in December at Madison Square Garden, cementing his legacy as the greatest shooter ever. Draymond Green anchored the defense, and when Klay finally returned in January, the league rejoiced at the sight of the Splash Brothers reunited. Down in Phoenix, the Suns were on a mission. After falling just short in the finals, Chris Paul and Devin Booker dominated the regular season, leading Phoenix to a league-best 64 wins. The franchise looked sharper, deeper, and hungrier than ever. In Memphis, Ja Morant exploded into superstardom, leading highlight reels nightly with high-flying dunks and fearless scoring. His swagger and energy transformed the Grizzlies into one of the NBA's most exciting teams. Back east, Milwaukee continued to look steady, though their title defense was overshadowed by Brooklyn's drama. Philadelphia rode Embiid's MVP-level dominance. Boston began the year sluggish, but after January, everything changed. Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown locked in. Marcus Smart took the reins as floor general, and under new head coach Ime Udoka, the Celtics became the league's best defense. Miami, behind Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo, and Tyler Hero, quietly rose to the top seed in the East. All-Star Weekend in Cleveland carried more weight than usual. The league celebrated its 75th anniversary, bringing together legends across all eras. Steph Curry stole the show in the game itself, hitting 16 threes and dropping 50 points to win All-Star Game MVP. It was a night that reminded everyone how much the game had evolved. I still can't believe they left Dwight Howard outside the top 75 players of all time. Like, what? The playoffs brought chaos yet again. In the first round, Boston stunned Brooklyn, sweeping the Nets despite Durant's brilliance. Kyrie, now a part-time player after returning mid-season, was booed mercilessly in Boston, and the Celtics' suffocating defense on KD became one of the defining images of the year. Philadelphia finally moved on from Simmons, but Harden's arrival did little to elevate them beyond the second round. Miami reached the conference finals again. Jimmy Butler carrying them with grit and determination. Out west, the Suns collapsed in shocking fashion. After dominating all season long, they were stunned in the second round by Luka Doncic and the Dallas Mavericks. Game 7 in Phoenix became infamous. The Suns were blown out on their home floor, trailing by as many as 46 points. Luka smiled through the demolition. His star ascending as Phoenix's dream season ended in humiliation. Golden State, meanwhile, rediscovered their championship DNA. Curry, Klay, and Draymond, now aided by Andrew Wiggins and Jordan Poole, dismantled Denver, Memphis, and Dallas to return to the finals for the first time since 2019. The finals set up a classic matchup. Golden State against Boston. The Warriors dynasty reborn facing the Celtics' young core. Early on, Boston struck first, stealing Game 1 in San Francisco behind Al Horford's clutch shooting and Tatum's playmaking. The media rushed to crown Boston's defense as the Warriors' kryptonite, but Curry responded with one of the greatest finals performances ever. In Game 4 in Boston, with Golden State down 2-1, Curry erupted for 43 points, silencing the crowd and shifting the entire series.
Back to Curry, step back, three-pointer, bang! Steph Curry drills the three. That's a 6-point Warriors lead.
Wiggins played the role of unsung hero, locking down Tatum and delivering timely scoring. By Game 6, the Warriors had taken full control. Curry dropped 34, tears flowing as he clutched his 4th ring and first finals MVP. For Boston, the loss was a harsh reality check. They proved they belong on the biggest stage, but Jason Tatum's struggles and the team's late game mistakes showed they weren't ready yet. It was a reminder that talent alone isn't enough. The finals demand experience, composure, and growth under pressure. For the Warriors, the 2022 championship was proof that their dynasty just wasn't finished yet. It was simply interrupted. 2 lost seasons had raised real doubts about whether Golden State's run of dominance was over. Kevin Durant had left, Klay Thompson missed over 900 days with devastating injuries, Draymond Green's body was showing wear, and the supporting cast looked unfamiliar. Critics wondered if Steph Curry could win again without Durant by his side. That title silenced all of it. It validated the organization's patience, trusting their core while developing new pieces like Andrew Wiggins and Jordan Poole. It showed that the Warriors system, ball movement, spacing, and defensive intensity could still conquer the modern NBA. It wasn't just another banner, it was a resurrection. And for Curry, it was personal. He already had 3 rings, but each carried an asterisk in the eyes of critics. The first in 2015 came with Kyrie and Kevin Love injured. The next 2 were won alongside Durant, who many believed was the finals alpha. Curry had never won a finals MVP, and detractors claimed he couldn't carry a team when it mattered most. In 2022, he shattered that narrative. His 43-point masterpiece in Game 4 at Boston became the defining performance of his career. And when he finally hoisted that finals MVP trophy, the last gap in his resume disappeared. That championship cemented Curry as more than just the greatest shooter of all time. It pushed him into the conversation with the game's immortals. It was the ring that validated his legacy, the banner that proved his dynasty, and the moment that confirmed his greatness was never tied to anybody else. As for this season's individual accolades, Nikola Jokic claimed his 2nd consecutive MVP award. Marcus Smart was named Defensive Player of the Year. Scotty Barnes earned Rookie of the Year. John Morant won Most Improved Player. Tyler Hero secured 6-man honors, and Monty Williams was recognized as Coach of the Year. Yuck. This season felt like a true reset for the NBA. Fans filled arenas again, young stars broke through, and old dynasties proved that they still had life in them. It was a year where Luka Doncic ascended, John Morant electrified, and Boston reintroduced itself as a true contender. It was also the year that reminded everyone how fragile success can be. The Suns' dominant run ended in humiliation. The Nets collapsed under pressure and drama, and the Lakers' gamble on Russell Westbrook spiraled into disaster. When it was over, the season had delivered a full spectrum of storylines, resurgence, heartbreak, and left the next generation hungrier than ever. The 2022-23 season began with a strange mix of stability and tension. Golden State had just reclaimed its throne, Steph Curry finally holding a finals MVP trophy, and the dynasty looked alive again. But even as the Warriors celebrated, cracks had already begun to show. In the preseason, a video leaked that shocked the league. Draymond Green punching Jordan Poole during practice. The clip went viral instantly, fueling weeks of headlines and questions about chemistry. The defending champions started their title defense under a cloud. This offseason also reshaped contenders across the map. In Minnesota, the Timberwolves made a bold swing, trading a historic package of draft picks for Rudy Gobert to pair with Karl-Anthony Towns and Anthony Edwards. Many mocked the price immediately, and it became one of the most talked about moves of the summer. In Cleveland, Donovan Mitchell also arrived in a blockbuster trade, instantly transforming the Cavs into a contender in the East. In Atlanta, DeJounte Murray joined Trae Young, raising hopes of a dynamic backcourt. The Lakers shuffled their supporting cast, but ultimately kept Westbrook, a decision that drew groans from fans and media. The draft brought even more attention to the future. Paolo Banchero went first overall to Orlando, shocking a lot of people who expected Jabari Smith Jr. to be the pick. Banchero wasted no time proving the Magic right, flashing star potential immediately. Chet Holmgren, taken second by Oklahoma City, was unfortunately sidelined for the season with a foot injury, delaying his debut. When the season tipped off, a lot of drama started to unfold. Out west, Golden State stumbled out of the gate. Despite Curry's brilliance, the Warriors couldn't shake off their road struggles and locker room tension. Phoenix, after their collapse in 2022, faced turmoil of their own when owner Robert Sarver was suspended and eventually forced to sell the team amid a scandal. Chris Paul began showing signs of age, and although Devin Booker and DeAndre Ayton carried stretches, the aura of dominance from the year before had vanished. Denver, on the other hand, finally looked whole. Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr. returned healthy, and with Nikola Jokic entering his prime, the Nuggets became a quiet powerhouse. Let's head to Los Angeles. The Lakers were again plagued by inconsistency. Westbrook shifted to a bench role, but the roster around LeBron and Anthony Davis still looked thin. The biggest spotlight on LeBron became his chase for history, passing Kareem Abdul-Jabbar as the NBA's all-time leading scorer. On February 7th, 2023, against the Thunder, LeBron hit a fadeaway jumper that stopped the game for a celebration.
For the record, he's got it! He's done it! LeBron James is now the all-time leading scorer in the history of the NBA.
Kareem himself was even in attendance. It was the defining regular season moment of the year. As LeBron faded away, every fan and celebrity in the arena had their phone out capturing history, except for one detail that made the image even more legendary. LeBron's teammate Thomas Bryant was wide open underneath the rim, hands up, calling for the ball on what turned out to be the most famous shot of LeBron's career. LeBron James had finally broken what many thought was an unbreakable record. Elsewhere in the league, Memphis took center stage. Ja Morant was blossoming into one of the league's brightest stars, but his off-court behavior soon became a headline. A viral video showed him flashing at a nightclub, leading to an 8-game suspension. This story took over sports media for weeks, raising questions about his maturity and future. Despite the drama, the Grizzlies still finished near the top of the West. And then there were the Sacramento Kings, a team long forgotten in the league's conversation. After 16 years of irrelevance, they finally broke through, with De'Aaron Fox playing the best basketball of his career, Domantas Sabonis anchoring the middle, and Mike Brown unlocking the roster's full potential. Sacramento not only made the playoffs, they became one of the league's most exciting teams. Their rallying cry turned into a phenomenon. After every home win, a giant purple beam shot into the sky above Golden One Center, and fans embraced it like a beacon of hope. It was goofy, it was fun, and it became one of the long-lasting images of the season. For the first time in nearly 2 decades, the Kings were relevant again, and their city roared to life. Let's head back east. Milwaukee powered through with Giannis playing at an MVP level, though injuries nagged the team late. Philadelphia thrived behind Joel Embiid, who delivered a dominant campaign that silenced critics and finally earned him MVP honors.
Saying that his feel for the game is what makes him special. Oh my goodness! Score the goal!
Fresh after a finals loss, Boston surged behind Jason Tatum's career year. And unfortunately for Brooklyn, they unraveled completely. Kyrie Irving was suspended after promoting an anti-Semitic film, which he refused to apologize for. And just days later, Kevin Durant requested a trade. By the deadline, Brooklyn had torn it all down, sending Durant to Phoenix and Kyrie to Dallas. Just like that, the super team experiment was over. All-Star Weekend in Salt Lake City turned into a showcase for the next generation. Mac McClung, a G League call-up, stole the dunk contest with jaw-dropping performances that went viral worldwide. In the All-Star game, Jason Tatum set a record with 55 points, earning MVP honors and signaling his rise as one of the league's faces. The playoffs carried all the unpredictability the decade had promised. In the East, Milwaukee's dominance vanished immediately. They were stunned in the first round by Jimmy Butler and the Miami Heat. Butler's Game 4 performance, a 56-point masterpiece, became an instant classic.
Long shot, good!
Boston fought through Atlanta and Philly, with Tatum dropping 51 in Game 7 against the Sixers, the highest scoring Game 7 in NBA history. Embiid's MVP season ended in disappointment yet again. In the West, chaos reigned. The Lakers, left for dead mid-season, reinvented themselves at the trade deadline with key additions like D'Angelo Russell and Rui Hachimura. In the playoffs, Dillon Brooks from the Memphis Grizzlies leaned fully into his villain persona, dismissing LeBron James as old and saying that he wouldn't respect him unless LeBron dropped 40 points on him.
I don't care, he's old.
Well, his comments instantly backfired. LeBron didn't need to drop 40. He dominated the series in every other way. The Lakers knocked Memphis out, and Brooks became the butt of the jokes across the league.
You know, I poke bears. I don't respect no one until they come and give me 40.
By the summer, Memphis decided to quietly move on from him. LeBron and AD simply caught fire, eliminating Memphis and then shocking Golden State to reach the conference finals. Phoenix's new super team of Durant and Booker couldn't stay healthy, falling to Denver in the second round. The Nuggets, finally whole, rolled through the West with Jokic orchestrating like a savant and Murray rediscovering his bubble magic. The finals set up a matchup that few had ever imagined. The Denver Nuggets against the Miami Heat. Denver had never reached the stage before, while Miami had once again emerged as the underdog 8th seed, carried by Butler's relentless willpower. But Denver was unstoppable. Jokic averaged a triple-double across the series, completely dissecting Miami's defense, all while Murray shined as the perfect co-star. Butler fought well, but the Heat's magic ran dry. Denver closed it out in just 5 games, capturing their first NBA title in franchise history.
It's over. At last, the long wait is over. After 47 years, the Denver Nuggets can finally call themselves NBA champions.
For Jimmy Butler and the Heat, the 2023 loss was bittersweet. Once again, they had defied every expectation, this time clawing their way from the play-in tournament all the way to the finals. Butler authored one of the most iconic runs in recent memory. His 56-point masterpiece against Milwaukee, his destruction of Boston in Game 7 of the conference finals, and his ability to drag Miami through every obstacle with sheer will. But when they finally reached the mountaintop, they ran into a team they simply couldn't outwork. Denver was bigger, deeper, and powered by a generational star in Nikola Jokic. Miami's injuries piled up and their underdog magic ran thin. For Butler, it was another finals loss, and while it didn't diminish his legend, it left the painful question of whether he'd ever be able to finish the story. For the Heat as a franchise, the loss reinforced both their identity and their limitations. They proved again that Heat culture was real, that discipline, toughness, and belief could push them farther than their talent suggested. But it also exposed how badly they needed another star besides Butler. Miami had heart, but in the modern NBA, heart alone rarely wins championships. The 2023 finals became Butler's paradox. He was clearly capable of dragging a team to the brink of glory, but without more help, the dream of lifting the trophy remained just out of reach. Now, for the Nuggets, the 2023 championship was the validation of everything that had built slowly, patiently, and often in the shadows. I mean, come on, their superstar MVP talent, Nikola Jokic, was drafted in the middle of a Taco Bell commercial. For years, they were dismissed as a good regular season team, but not a real threat in the playoffs. Their rise wasn't fueled by a splashy free agent signing or blockbuster trades. It was built on drafting smart, developing talent, and trusting their core. Winning the franchise's first ever title ended decades of waiting and permanently altered how the Nuggets were viewed. No longer just a small market afterthought, they became proof that consistency and belief could lead to the mountaintop. For Nikola Jokic, it was the ultimate answer. 2 MVPs had already made him one of the best players in the league, but critics called him a stat patter, a regular season star who couldn't dominate when it mattered most. In 2023, he destroyed that narrative, averaging a triple-double in the finals, bending defenses to his will, and controlling the game without ego. Jokic redefined what a superstar could look like. His calm demeanor, unselfish play, and dominance in the biggest moments elevated him from great to legendary. This championship cemented Jokic as the greatest player in Nuggets history and one of the most unique centers the game had ever seen. For him, the ring wasn't about flash. It was about proving that his way of playing basketball could win it all.
The job is done. We can go home now.
Now, for this season's awards, Joel Embiid was named MVP. Jaren Jackson Jr. earned Defensive Player of the Year. Paolo Banchero was Rookie of the Year. Lauri Markkanen won Most Improved Player. Malcolm Brogdon claimed Six-Man honors. And Mike Brown was recognized as the first ever unanimous Coach of the Year. This season captured everything about unpredictability of the new era. A supposed super team in Brooklyn imploded mid-year. The league's all-time scoring record fell as LeBron James passed Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. A play-in team stormed all the way into the finals. And for the first time in history, the Denver Nuggets stood on top of the basketball world. It was a season of contrasts. Icons aging while young stars demanded the stage. Drama off the court colliding with brilliance on it. By the end, the year delivered what no one could deny. A new champion, a new standard of dominance, and the undeniable proof that parity ruled the NBA once again. The 2023-24 season began with the league buzzing about youth, change, and the future. For over a decade, the NBA had belonged to LeBron James, Stephen Curry, and Kevin Durant. But now, a new generation was arriving, headlined by one of the most hyped-up rookies in league history. The offseason reshaped the league yet again. The Boston Celtics swung for the fences, trading for Kristaps Porzingis, and later shocking the league by landing Drew Holiday after Milwaukee briefly acquired him in the Damian Lillard deal. The Bucks' move for Lillard was huge. Giannis finally had a superstar scorer beside him, and the duo instantly became favorites in the East. Out west in Phoenix, Kevin Durant now had Devin Booker and Bradley Beal at his side, forming yet another super team. Surely that ends well, right? In Memphis, Ja Morant's troubles overshadowed all of their optimism. After flashing yet another, on social media again, he was suspended for 25 games, a punishment that defined the team's outlook right from the start. This year's draft belonged to one name and one name alone, Victor Wembanyama. The French phenom was selected first overall by the San Antonio Spurs, hailed as the most unique prospect in NBA history. At 7'4" with guard skills, Wemby became must-watch TV every single night. Scoot Henderson went third to Portland, beginning a new era after the Damian Lillard trade, while Brandon Miller went second to Charlotte. Now, for the season's tip-off. In the East, Milwaukee looked dominant with Lillard and Giannis, though chemistry questions lingered. Boston, powered by Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, played like a machine, especially with the addition of Holiday's defense and Porzingis spacing that made them look deeper than ever. Philadelphia was clouded by drama yet again. James Harden forced his way out, publicly blasting team president Daryl Morey before being traded to the Clippers.
Daryl Morey is a liar, and I will never be a part of an organization that he's a part of. Thank you, man.
Let's head out west. Denver picked up right where they left off. Nikola Jokic was once again unstoppable, orchestrating the Nuggets with ease. Minnesota quietly emerged as a defensive powerhouse, with Rudy Gobert anchoring the paint and Anthony Edwards blossoming into a superstar. The Lakers and Warriors remained competitive, though aging cores kept both from dominating. And of course, Phoenix struggled with injuries and inconsistency despite their star trio. Sacramento continued to ride the light the beam movement, staying dangerous with Fox and Sabonis. Oklahoma City made the leap from promising to a legitimate contender, as Gilgeous-Alexander played like an MVP and Chet Holmgren debuted with poise after missing his entire first year. And then there was Detroit. The Pistons endured one of the worst seasons in NBA history. What began with optimism around Cade Cunningham, Jaden Ivey, Jalen Duren, and rookie Asar Thompson quickly spiraled into disaster. They dropped 28 games straight, tying the longest losing streak ever, and frustration mounted with chants against new coach Monty Williams and fans showing up in paper bags. By the end of the season, Detroit had cemented itself not just as the league's worst team, but one of the worst in NBA history. The year became a symbol of how far the Pistons had fallen from their championship days, and a quick reminder that even in a league filled with parity, someone still has to hit rock bottom. Writing this segment hurt my soul. All-Star Weekend in Indianapolis carried a mix of celebration and frustration. The three-point contest was the highlight, with Steph Curry and Sabrina Ionescu facing off in a historic exhibition that went viral worldwide. But the All-Star Game itself drew heavy criticism for its lack of competitiveness, as Team East beat Team West 211 to 186. Damian Lillard walked away with MVP, but the game's effort level became the main story. The playoffs, however, delivered everything the regular season lacked. In the East, Milwaukee's super team stumbled early. Giannis battled injuries, Lillard struggled defensively, and the Bucks were bounced in the first round by Indiana. Tyrese Halliburton putting on a show that confirmed his rise as a star.
Crosses over on Beverly. Float game for the win!
And would you believe Philadelphia exited early again? Embiid's injuries just won't stop. Now for the Knicks, they surged behind Jalen Brunson's breakout, electrifying Madison Square Garden and pushed them into the second round. But Boston proved untouchable, steamrolling their way to the finals. In the West, Denver looked poised to repeat, but Anthony Edwards stole the spotlight. The Timberwolves knocked out the defending champions in a stunning second round series, Edwards declaring, "I'm the face of the league," as his star power exploded. Oklahoma City, behind Shea and Chet, reached the second round as well, proving that their rebuild was way ahead of schedule. The Lakers and Warriors fell short again. Their championship windows were shrinking. Ultimately, Dallas emerged as a Cinderella of the West. Luka Doncic, paired with Kyrie Irving, delivered masterpiece after masterpiece, carrying the Mavericks through the bracket and into the finals.
From Luka. Doncic again, another three. Got it! He's a flamethrower! He is on fire! 20 points!
The finals gave us Boston against Dallas. The Celtics, desperate to break through after years of near misses, against Luka, the brilliant soloist rewriting playoff basketball one game at a time. Dallas stole early headlines with Luka's scoring ability and Kyrie's return to Boston, but the Celtics overwhelmed them. Tatum and Brown dominated both ends. Drew Holiday and Derek White locked down the Mavericks' backcourt. And of course, Porzingis provided a spark in game one before his injury started to slow him down again. Boston won the series in 5 games, finally raising banner 18, the most in NBA history.
Time to say it again, Boston. Anything's possible. Banner number 18 has been secured.
For Luka Doncic and the Mavericks, the 2024 finals loss was devastating. Luka had proven that he can carry a team all the way to the biggest stage, but the series laid bare just how much weight he had to shoulder alone. Even with Kyrie Irving beside him, Boston's depth and discipline exposed Dallas's flaws. It was a painful reminder that brilliance wasn't enough without support. At the time, the loss felt like the first chapter of a long story, a sign that Luka would be back again and again. But in hindsight, this finals would be remembered very differently, because no one could have imagined what would come next. For Boston, the 2024 championship was the long-awaited breakthrough. Years of near misses and painful exits were finally washed away as the Celtics lifted banner 18, claiming sole possession of the most titles in NBA history. Jaylen Brown stood at the center of it all. After years of trade rumors, doubts about his handle, and whispers that he wasn't good enough to be a co-star on a title team, he answered every question in the only way that matters, by winning Finals MVP. His defense, his consistency, and his fearlessness in the biggest moments cemented his place in Boston lore. This wasn't just redemption, it was a coronation. Jason Tatum, meanwhile, carried a different narrative. He was outstanding through the run, leading the team in scoring and setting the tone for their dominance. Yet, because he didn't win Finals MVP, fans and media mocked him, picked apart his every word and moment after the celebration, and also used Brown's award as fuel for disrespect. As an unbiased fan, the criticism was beyond excessive. Tatum is still one of the best players in the league today, a superstar who was critical to Boston's title. He just didn't walk away with that one trophy. Together, Brown and Tatum proved the Celtics right for never breaking them apart. One raised the finals MVP, the other carried the weight of the franchise, and both walked away champions. It wasn't about who held which trophy. It was about finally reaching the summit. Now then, for the seasonal awards. Nikola Jokic was named MVP. Rudy Gobert won Defensive Player of the Year. Victor Wembanyama claimed Rookie of the Year. Tyrese Maxey took home Most Improved Player. Naz Reid earned Six-Man honors. And Mark Daigneault was recognized as Coach of the Year. This season was a clash between eras. Legends like LeBron and Curry fought to hold their ground, while Edwards, Halliburton, and Wembanyama demanded the spotlight. Boston's championship ended a 16-year drought. Luka established himself as a generational playoff performer, and Detroit's misery became an unforgettable subplot. More than anything, though, this year proved that the NBA has fully entered a new age, where balance ruled, stars rotated constantly, and no story was too wild to believe. The 2024-25 season began with the league already buzzing from a busy summer. Boston entered as defending champions, their core intact and confident after raising banner 18. Milwaukee doubled down on Giannis and Damian Lillard, determined to erase the sting of last year's playoff failure. In Philadelphia, Joel Embiid gains a new co-star in Paul George, teaming with Tyrese Maxey to form a trio many believed could finally break through. The Knicks made a statement too, swinging a blockbuster deal for Mikal Bridges to pair with Jalen Brunson, finally bringing real star power to Madison Square Garden. Not just that, the Knicks also traded Julius Randle for Karl Anthony Towns of the Timberwolves. They were going all in. The draft didn't bring much hype, but definitely some talent. The Atlanta Hawks shocked many by taking Zachary Ricochet first overall. Washington landed Alex Sarr at number 2, and Houston grabbed sharpshooter Reed Shepherd at number 3. The class lacked a Wembanyama-level headliner, but its depth promised plenty of future stars. Oh, and I can't forget about Ron Holland, who went number 5 to the Detroit Pistons. Before the season even tipped, basketball spotlight was global. The Paris Olympics became a showcase of dominance as Team USA assembled what many called the Avengers. LeBron James returned to international play for the first time in over a decade. Steph Curry finally made his Olympic debut. Kevin Durant, Anthony Davis, Joel Embiid, Jason Tatum, and Devin Booker filled out a roster loaded with Hall of Fame talent. The Americans stormed to gold, restoring supremacy after their stumble at the 2023 FIBA World Cup. For LeBron and Curry, it was a crowning moment near the end of their careers. For the younger generation, it was proof that they were ready to inherit the mantle. When the NBA season tipped off, evenly spread talent once again defined the league. Oklahoma City's young core of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Chet Holmgren, and J-Dub powered them to the top of the West. Minnesota followed closely behind, with Anthony Edwards blossoming further into superstardom. In the East, Boston looked good, but not quite as sharp as the year before. New York surged behind Jalen Brunson's brilliance, proving that they were a dominant force that couldn't be ignored. Milwaukee, with Giannis still anchoring the franchise, looked decent, dangerous in stretches, but not the overwhelming powerhouse that most expected. Cleveland, though, stole the early headlines. The Cavaliers exploded out of the gate, starting the season 15-0, looking like the best team in basketball.
Mitchell, in and out dribble. What a move!
The 76ers also turned some heads, not because they were good, but because their stars couldn't stay healthy and injuries derailed their entire season. Again. And finally, there were the Pacers, who stumbled early but found their rhythm as the year went on, led by Tyrese Halliburton's playmaking and Pascal Siakam's steady presence. Then came the shock of the season.
Breaking news on SportsCenter this morning, the Lakers and Mavericks making it a blockbuster night. Luka Doncic headed to the Lakers, Anthony Davis headed to the Mavericks.
At the trade deadline, the Mavericks stunned the basketball world by trading Luka Doncic to the Los Angeles Lakers.
It's crazy, crazy. Yeah, would have never thought Luka Doncic get traded at this age, you know, mid-season.
Make a couple $100 million and leave us stuck out here, you know. Now we're back to square one. We're back to square zero. You feel me? That's ridiculous.
The return package centered on Anthony Davis, sending him to Dallas to anchor a new era there while positioning Luka as the heir to Los Angeles. This move was seismic. Not a short-term play for LeBron's twilight, but a future-shaping gamble. The Lakers weren't instantly vaulted into title contention, but the message was clear. Luka was being handed the keys to carry the franchise when LeBron finally stepped away. For Dallas, it was a calculated reset, building around Dave. Oh, who am I kidding? I still don't understand this move. I'm sorry, Mavs fans. This trade absolutely rocked the basketball world. Everyone thought it was a fake report.
Trying to figure out how I'm going to deal with all this and put my best foot forward as one of the leaders of the team. You know.
But it feels like someone close to you died in a way, and there's lots of anger for sure.
Nico Harrison, the GM for the Mavs, traded a generational player because he was fat?
You know what I mean? Make it at least a decent trade, but that was just a terrible trade. Hate everything about it.
And then there was Detroit. Just a year earlier, the Pistons had been a punchline, stumbling through one of the worst seasons in NBA history. But this year was their rebirth. Cade Cunningham finally made the leap everyone had been waiting for, earning his first All-Star and All-NBA selections while carrying himself like the true face of a franchise. The front office surrounded him with what he desperately needed: veterans and shooting. It's that simple. Malik Beasley emerged as a breakout weapon on the perimeter, stretching defenses and punishing every double team that dared to leave him open. Jaden Ivey and Jalen Durant both took massive strides, balancing their youthful athleticism with sharper decision-making. Unfortunately for Ivey, he went down with a season-ending injury on January 1st just as he was having a career year. But that didn't stop the Pistons. And though Asar Thompson suffered a terrifying setback, missing the entire offseason and half the year due to blood clots, his return fortified Detroit's defense and reminded everyone why he was so highly valued. Detroit didn't just improve. They shocked the basketball world by becoming the first team in NBA history to triple their previous year's win total. What was once a team buried in despair became one of the league's best stories. No longer just a cautionary tale. The Pistons were suddenly a blueprint, proof that patience, player development, and the right supporting cast could turn a laughingstock into a rising contender. In case you couldn't tell yet, I am a Pistons fan. Detroit's back, baby. Now, on to All-Star Weekend. The Saturday night headline was once again the highly anticipated slam dunk contest, which was taken over Mac McClung. Again, the two-time champion captivated fans with a series of highlight reel dunks that earned him a record-tying 50 on 2 separate occasions and cemented his status as one of the best dunkers of all time. The game itself regained some of its star power after years of criticism, with Steph Curry and Anthony Edwards overall seizing the spotlight. Curry walked away with the All-Star Game MVP, further cementing his rise as one of the league's greatest faces. The playoffs were absolutely insane. In the East, the Detroit Pistons and their young superstar Cade Cunningham gave the heavily favored New York Knicks everything they could handle, pushing the series to 6 games in a valiant first-round effort. The Knicks ultimately prevailed, riding Jalen Brunson's spectacular skill, of course. I'm sure the 36 fouls that he drew that series didn't help them at all. Speaking of refs, can you believe they didn't call a foul on this? I was at games 3 and 4 in Detroit. Such a surreal feeling regardless of my disappointment in the result. We'll get him next year. Now, in the second round, the Knicks faced the battle of the Boston Celtics. The series turned on a devastating moment when Jason Tatum went down with a torn Achilles in Game 4, an injury that ended his season. The Knicks took advantage of Boston's depleted roster, winning the series and advancing to the Eastern Conference Finals for the first time in decades. Their run came to a surprising end, however, as the Indiana Pacers shocked the world yet again. The Pacers, who made a deep playoff run the previous year as well, proved too much for the Knicks. Led by a relentless offense, the Pacers defeated the Knicks in the Eastern Conference Finals to advance to the NBA Finals. I will never forget this shot.
He'll take it. He'll backpedal a 3 for the win. And goal! He got it!
Halliburton was on a generational run this year. Absolutely unforgettable. The Western Conference playoffs were also an intense battle of established powers and rising stars. The Houston Rockets, now led by Alfred Şengün and a great young supporting cast, were pushed to the brink by the veteran Golden State Warriors, who pulled off a stunning upset as the 7th seed by defeating the 2nd-seeded Rockets in a thrilling 7-game series. Meanwhile, the Minnesota Timberwolves, led by Anthony Edwards, defeated LeBron James and the Los Angeles Lakers in the first round, and then the Warriors in the conference semifinals. This was the 2nd straight year the Timberwolves made the conference finals. But unfortunately for the Timberwolves, the conference ultimately belonged to none other than the Oklahoma City Thunder. The #1 seed survived a grueling 7-game slugfest with the Denver Nuggets in the second round. Their youthful core proved its mettle against the playoff-tested Nuggets. In the Western Conference Finals, it was a showdown of the future, Thunder versus the Timberwolves, but the series was a surprisingly one-sided affair. The Thunder's depth and defense overwhelmed the Timberwolves. OKC's victory cemented their status as the best team in the West and set up a finals matchup with the Cinderella Indiana Pacers. The 2025 NBA Finals delivered a matchup that nobody predicted: the Oklahoma City Thunder versus the Indiana Pacers. On one side stood the Thunder, the West top seed, led by Gilgeous-Alexander's poise, Chet Holmgren's defense, and a roster loaded with depth. On the other side were the Pacers, a team that had spent the season silencing critics. All year, the consensus was that Indiana was good, but not good enough. And in the playoffs, they tore that narrative apart. Tyrese Halliburton emerged as the heartbeat of a franchise, orchestrating the Pacers offense with flair and confidence. Alongside him, Pascal Siakam gave Indiana a steady, championship-tested presence. They weren't supposed to hang with the league's elite, but round after round, they shocked the world. By the time they reached the finals, many assumed they'd be swept. Instead, they fought the mighty Thunder tooth and nail, dragging the series to a deciding Game 7. The stage was set for a classic. 2 franchises without a title, 2 fan bases starved for glory, and a series that had already delivered blow-for-blow basketball. But then came the moment that changed everything.
Good contested door. Halliburton falls down.
He looks hurt. Here comes it.
Now this is sick. One of the most lovable players in this league. One of the best young leaders in this team. His father struggling with this moment.
The diagnosis was brutal, an Achilles tear. The Pacers leader, the player who had carried them this far, was done. The air was sucked out of that arena. What could have been one of the greatest Game 7s in NBA history instantly shifted. Indiana fought valiantly behind Siakam, Miles Turner, and the role players, but without Halliburton steering the ship, the offense sputtered. The Thunder ceased control, with Shea delivering clutch baskets and Holmgren anchoring the defense. Oklahoma City pulled away late, securing the championship and completing their climb back to the top for the first time since the Durant-Westbrook era. For Shea, the 2025 championship was the crowning moment of his rise from overlooked prospect to undisputed superstar. Once traded away by the Clippers as the cost of acquiring Paul George, he had spent years quietly evolving in Oklahoma City, sharpening his game, and carrying a young roster into relevance. By the time the Thunder reached the finals, Shea was no longer a hidden gem. He was an MVP, a closer, and the unquestioned leader of a champion. Hoisting that trophy was proof that his steady climb had led him to the mountaintop, all on his own terms.
This isn't just a win for me. This is a win for my family. This is a win for my friends. This is a win for everybody that was in my corner growing up. This is a win for the fans, the best fans in the world.
For the Thunder as a franchise, the win was vindication of patience and vision. After Durant's departure in 2016, after Westbrook and George were traded away, Oklahoma City committed to the slow rebuild that so many doubted would work in today's NBA. Draft picks piled up, young talent developed, and when the moment came, it all paid off. Chet Holmgren anchored the defense, J-Dub emerged as a do-it-all star, and the supporting cast also flourished in their own roles. Did I forget to mention that they're also the youngest team in the NBA right now? The Thunder's championship wasn't just about a single season. It was about a process finally bearing fruit. For a small market franchise, it was proof that they could not only survive losing superstars, but build something even greater in their wake. For Shea, it was the night his name entered the league's highest echelon. No longer just a star, but a champion who had carried the team all the way to history. And for Indiana, it was heartbreak. They had proven every doubter wrong, shown the world they belonged on the biggest stage, and stood one step away from history. But Halliburton's injury left the question hanging over everything. What if the Pacers star had stayed healthy? Could Indiana have finished one of the most shocking championship runs of all time? We'll never know. As for the seasonal awards, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander was declared MVP. Evan Mobley won Defensive Player of the Year. Dyson Daniels earned Most Improved. Stephon Castle won Rookie of the Year. Payton Pritchard won Sixth Man. And Kenny Atkinson earned the Coach of the Year. This season was the perfect storm. Get it? Because the Thunder. It gave us the most shocking midseason trade of all time that rewrote the league's future. A reborn Pistons team rising from rock bottom, and a finals matchup that nobody expected, ending with OKC's young core climbing the mountain at last. It was a year defined by twists, breakthroughs, and of course, heartbreak. The kind of season that reminded fans why nothing in this era can ever be predicted. Everyone's been asking me to do a 2020's recap, and honestly, I was on the fence. We're only halfway into the decade, and part of me wanted to wait until the full 10 years had played out. But with how incredible this half decade has already been, the parody, the surprises, the unforgettable finals runs, I just couldn't wait 5 more years to tell this story. What makes this era so different from the 2010s is how wide open it's felt. Back then, we lived through dynasties, the Heat, the Warriors, where you almost knew who'd be holding the trophy before the season even began. But in the 2020s, we've had a different champion every single year. It's the most unpredictable stretch in league history, and it's made every season feel like a brand new story. It's crazy to imagine what the next 5 champions might look like. Could we see repeat winners like the Thunder or the Nuggets? Maybe Luka finally gets it done in Los Angeles. Or maybe it's a team that's still on the rise, like the Pistons? Please, Lord, let it be the Pistons. This offseason has been absolutely insane as well. The NBA loves to throw us curveballs. Like, who could have predicted that Kevin Durant would force yet another trade? Yeah, oh wait, yeah, we all saw that one coming. So now I'll ask you, what decade do you want me to see covered next? Let me know in the comment section down below. Make sure you guys go subscribe to our brand new podcast channel, Jay-Z Courtside. Once the NBA season tips off, we're dropping daily podcasts covering everything around the league. That channel link will be down below. Thank you all so much again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. There's some videos on the screen right now that I think you'll love.